Hello, my name is Paul Phillips, and today I'd like to talk to you about the Procore integration that's been built out using Novacura Flow. To start, I'd like to talk about what Novacura Flow is, our integration capabilities, the Procore integration that we have built, and then a demo. But before we talk about Novacura Flow, I think it's important to discuss what the concept of low code is. Low code is the ability to build applications and integrations without having to write lines and lines of C# code, for example. In Novacura Flow, we have the capability of drawing out your processes. What this means is you're able to edit user interfaces, our back-end components of an integration, and be able to do this in a WYSIWYG style editor, where what you see is what you get. In the screen in front of you, a user is using Novacura Flow's designer to build out a mobile interface, making changes in low or no code. From here, Novacura is able to offer a one-click publish to instantly publish these across all platforms, Android, iOS, or web. So what this means is for a user, the same screens that were built in Designer show up immediately on a mobile device. You can enter information and then save that to a backend system like IFS. Now, Novacura can also be used for backend integrations. The same concepts that were drawn out in a mobile app are now backend interfaces, where you can write inbound parameters, design web services, connect to your favorite systems with no code, and even write custom error messages. We refer to these as machine workflows. A machine workflow can be called as a service or can be scheduled to run at a specific interval. We've used these concepts to build out the Procore integration. And what low code allows us to do is build out an agile development process where we can meet the needs of your business, but do it in such a way that allows the customer to support afterwards, or Novacura too. The solution is a bi-directional integration, which allows queue management and error handling. And once again, it supports the ability for our customers to build the interface the way they need, or for Novacura to support them. Our Procore integration interacts with IFS and Procore. Today, it's built on components. And what that means is that we can take each individual component and build out the integration you need. For example, in front of you, if you need the work breakdown structure to sync, but don't care about manual supplier or manual customer invoices within IFS, we have the ability to take the components of the work breakdown structure, such as projects, sub-project, and activity sync, and we can go ahead and build those pieces into the integration without pulling in things like manual customer or supplier invoices. We've built an integration that allows us to support customers who are looking to be heavy within Procore and do most of their transactions in Procore. But we've also built an integration that supports the other direction, where IFS is the system of record. And in these cases, you might see IFS projects get started and you want to sync those to Procore. And things like document management and budget become important, more of the ball and court actions. So let's go ahead and take a look at what this integration looks like. You can see in front of you that you have a Procore screen. To start this near real-time integration, I can go ahead and hit Create Project. Project will ask me for some basic information. I'm going to go ahead and fill out a project name. I'm going to enter a value for the project. I'm going to give it a start date. And I'll also give it an end date. I'm going to pick a bidding stage provide a project number, and then a test project 17 description. You can see that there's a lot of information that I can fill out the screen, but the last required field is bid type, which I'll select major repair and overhaul. From here, I'll go ahead and create project. Once my project is created, I need to go ahead and add a prime contract to dictate which customer my project will have in IFS. To do that, if I go to the prime contract screen, I can create a new prime contract and select an owner for this prime contract. I'm going to go ahead and select Mars and create. There's much more information that can be added to the prime contract, such as a schedule of values. But for the interface to work, I only need to dictate one owner and client for the prime contract. From here, I can go and sync my budget. For some customers, you may sync this through the Procore import tool. You may import your budget here. For this, I'm going to go ahead and just create one new budget line to show how the interface works. So if I create a budget for a sub-project of general requirements and an activity of general requirements, I'll make this for a materials cost code. And let's go ahead and type a value. Let's give it 10,000 and create that line. Now, the last thing I have to do is go to admin. And once I change the stage of this project to course of construction, it's going to go ahead and fire off a message to Novacura, which will then sync the project with IFS. While it's syncing, what I'm expecting to have happen is an entire work breakdown structure to be built, similar to the one that's in Procore. If I navigate to work breakdown structure, you can see I have cost codes. If I dive into those cost codes, here I have a list of sub-projects and activities. These should be the same that I see in IFS. The sync will also take care of things like report codes that have been set up previously inside of Procore. Because this integration runs off of webhooks, it means it's near real time. As soon as I updated my project in Procore, a webhook was sent out to Novacura to take on the synchronization of this data. Let's go take a look at IFS. So if I refresh my projects within IFS, I now have a new project set up. That project was the one I just created in Procore. Let's go take a look at some of the details. You can see here that I have a project set up with the MRO category. If I go in and further dive into some of this data, let's go to scope and schedule. In scope and schedule, I can now see that the same work breakdown structure is in IFS as it is in Procore. If I go into the general requirements activity and I go to my estimates tab, you'll note that that budget line item that was created in Procore for 10,000 is now existing inside the estimates of IFS. If I take it a step further and go to the setup parameters, you'll note that valid report codes have been set up for each individual activity. These are the same report codes that exist inside of Procore. So from here, now that my project is set up and my activities are in release status, I'm going to go ahead and time report. Inside of Procore, if I create a new timesheet, you'll note that I have two employees where both of the IDs in IFS are equal to ZOBENO. I'm going to go ahead and select Paul Phillips. So let's go ahead and report some time for Paul under that general requirements activity. And let's give it 8 hours of regular time for general setup. But let's also give 2 hours of overtime on that same cost code for extra work. And let's submit these. So once again, that's sending off a message to Novacura to sync the data between Procore and IFS. So let's go into IFS. And let's take a look at project transactions. I'm going to go ahead and search for our project. And you'll note that I have 2 transactions here. One for overtime and one for regular time. My times came across, and so did my comments. Now inside of Procore, if these statuses get a change to approved, what I'd expect to happen is those same project transactions will become approved in IFS. So if I go over here and refresh these, I now have 2 in approved status. You'll also note that these project transactions don't have any costs associated with them. However, if they did, I can go ahead and transfer those costs to direct costs in Procore. This showcases the capability of our integrations, not just to go from Procore to IFS, but also from IFS to Procore. Now, typically this process that I'm about to run happens as a background job. But for this sake, I'm going to go ahead and fire off the project cost accounting transactions to the general ledger. So if I pick November and then give an end date of the 17th, I'll give a voucher date of today. And let's just pick our project. I'm going to go ahead and start this now. So now what's happening is messages are being fired off from IFS to Procore. Novacura is going to go ahead and create direct costs to capture the total cost on the project. If I go back to Procore and go to my direct cost screen, you note here that I have an expense line. Well, that expense line has a 0 amount, but it's only because the cost transactions within IFS had the same. If I view these details, you'll see I have 2 lines associated with this, one for 8 hours and one for 2, with the total allotment that was recorded inside of IFS. Here you can see better description of these entities, as well as which employee was time reported and what the transaction sequence was of that report. So here you can see that we have bidirectional communication between IFS and Procore. And each of these records gets flagged with an ERP synced tag. That can be shown both here on the expense, but also on the project as well. Once again, the way this integration has been built is it uses Novacura Flow's no-code platform. That means that changes to this integration can be easily made both by yourself or by us at Novacura. We have the capability of building out this integration the way you need by using components from our template. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.